Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Mike here at Game From Scratch, and lately it's kind of been a game of pile on, let's laugh at Unity, ha ha ha. And there's a new story that came out yesterday that Unity is working with the U.S. government Department of Defense, and it wasn't something I was going to cover, to be honest, because I think of it as mostly a non-story. But the thing is, the rest of the industry apparently disagrees with me, so I think I will cover it today. So this was broke in Bloomberg 2 days ago, so on August 10th, at the end of the day, they announced that software company Unity Software signed its biggest contract yet to provide digital simulation technologies in support of the U.S. government. It so goes on to say that they are working with the firm CACI International, which has provided aerial surveillance and other military intelligence to the government branches. And then the quote directly from Unity from their earnings announcements is, through this relationship, Unity will help the government defining human-machine interfaces, or HMI, for aerospace applications and beyond. Mark Whitten, a senior vice president at Unity, on the company's earnings call on Tuesday, these applications demand an interactive, robust user experience very much like games. So, basically, they're working with CACI. It's Unity's largest single digital twin solution deal for Unity to date. Digital twin is their real-life modeling division, I suppose you could say. A deal helps to set up the Unity 3D platform for future systems design and simulation programs across the U.S. government. Unity has previously held contracts with the U.S. Defense Department, so again, this is nothing new. It's part of why I didn't think it was much of a story. Unity has previously held contract with the U.S. Defense Department, which has reportedly caused concern among some employees. We'll get back to that in a minute. A military has used Unity software to visualize plane runway attacks by live munitions and train drones on identifying ordnance. So again, there's CACI. CACI is very much a military-focused company, by the way. They're formed to sell programming languages to the Department of Defense back in like the 1960s. And since then, yeah, they are basically military and border services, etc., are basically their only clients here. So again, I didn't think that this was much of a story, but apparently everyone else did. So this is PC Gamer. They covered it about this lucrative contract they signed with the U.S. Defense Department. Then we've got Kotaku also covering it as well. And again, there have been a lot of pile-on lately. They've got the layoffs going on. They've got the merger with ironSource going on, and potentially now with AppLovin. They have the CEO making comments that I literally can't repeat on YouTube. So yeah, Unity has been really stepping in it the last month. But this one, again, I don't think that this is much of a big deal. For one, Unreal Engine did this way back, 2015. They partnered with Sortech to do military government, like their interface. So they may not do it directly, but they do it through another company. Now, I don't know since then, but Unreal Engine is used by the Department of Defense as well. And on top of that, if you're really wondering about this, so is open source. And I don't mean like a little bit of open source. They're all about the open source. It's kind of funny. If you actually go and read this memo, the Department of Defense Open Source Software FAQ, which was updated in 2021, by the way, they're like singing the praises of open source. And then using open source at DoD, does the DoD use open source? And like, yes, extensively. So you do run into a quandary here. It's like, if you develop a project, so if you're working on like Unity, you don't want your project being used to kill people. I can kind of understand that. Same with if you're contributing to an open source project. And let's look at some of the open source projects that use extensively here throughout the Air Force, the DoD, and so on. We got things like Kubernetes, Apache's web server, Firefox browser, OpenSSL, OpenSSH. We've got the GCC compiler suite, Perl, Samda, Mailman, even GIMP. I don't know what they're doing with GIMP, but yeah, they use GIMP there as well. And then there are also military-specific open source projects as well. So, yeah, if you contribute to any one of these projects, you're no different than if you contribute to Unity, which then gets used for a military application. And I hate to say it, this is part of the military-industrial complex, also the space program and so on. They're probably the biggest tech incubator in the world, and the trickle-down effects are profound. So a lot of this does eventually get back to the commercial markets, etc. But if you make a product of some form, chances are the military uses it, and in a roundabout way, they probably use it in a support of offensive actions. It's just the way things go. Now, this did come up in 2021. This is a Vice article about people at Unity not liking the fact they didn't know specifically that their stuff was being used by the military. And I can get that. Again, I understand that perspective. But one thing that I found interesting in this was this statement from Unity themselves back then. A key principle, according to Unity, is that its work for the government does not directly involve the loss of life, harm of the planet, or a person's right to equity and inclusion. Citing confidentiality clauses, the company could not point to specifics, but brought up its internal Sales Ethics Advisory Council, everything has an acronym, SEC, made up of interested Unity employees from diverse backgrounds, geographics, and parts of the company. Unity said CACI has passed along recommendations that have resulted in declining contracts that do not align with the principles outlined above. Then again, their CEO is he. So let's not put too much stock into that, but Unity is basically on record back in, so this was the original complaint about when people discovered that their stuff was being used by the military because of their GovTech division. So this was back in 2021. And again, I think, honestly, if you work for a company or you contribute to an open source project, your work is probably being used by the government. Now, I understand it would be a little bit different if, you were at the AI or machine learning division there and you found out that you were directly working on, say, a weapon guidance system. Yeah, but if you're working on trading systems, I can kind of see why you'd actually want to support the military in that case, because you're using something that keeps people from live fire exercises. It keeps casualties down. Same way, in a strange way, if you're working on guidance systems and you make missiles more accurate, you could theoretically save lives. But that gets into a moral quandary. You don't want to go down that rabbit hole either. But what I'm basically saying is, if you develop software, there's a pretty good chance that someone somewhere in the military is using it for something. That's the nature of the beast, and it's kind of why I didn't think that this was much of a story. But again, Kotaku, PC Gamer, and dozens upon dozens upon dozens of others. Here, let's actually go check. All right, so here we are at Google News. Let's go up here and we'll search for Unity Military. And let's see who all is covering this. So we've got Kotaku, The Gamer. Right, let's just do full coverage on this one. Bloomberg, Microsoft, PC Gamer, Game Developer, Video Games Chronicle, ZDNet, VentureBeat, and so on. So it's a story that is definitely being covered around the world. So I guess I have to cover it as well. In terms of CACI International, it started as California Analysis Center, Inc. If you're wondering if this is a military company, well, it was formed from the RAND Corp. So yeah, it's definitely anything with ties to the RAND Corp is basically military industrial complex, either think tank or consulting or something to that effect. Anything that's branched out from or spawned from Rand Corp is military through and through. So there's no question here. This guy is definitely a military company. It was started off to, again, publish their programming language SimScript, which I'd actually never heard of, but then again, I've never worked for the military. So yeah, that is where this all started from, and this is actually the company that Unity is working with. So they're basically a subcontractor, and that is the story. I'd be curious to hear from you what you think. Again, it was covered by so many people that I figured eventually I had to cover it now, but honestly, I don't think it's really news. I think that all companies work with the military either through an intermediary or one way or another. It's just the nature of the beast, and you know what? Again, they have that clause there that none of their stuff is being used directly to harm people, the planet, and the environment, etc. I don't know what more they could ask for. But yeah, let me know what you think, where you stand on this one. I know this could get a little on the political side, and I don't want to, which is part of, again, why I wasn't going to cover it. But again, the rest of the media seems to be picking up and running with this one. It's a game development topic, and yeah, let me know what you think. Comments down below. I'll talk to you all later. Goodbye.